The Sheptytsky Institute has arrived in Toronto. Why is it called the Sheptytsky Institute? Who was Andrey Sheptytsky? What does the Institute stand for? I venture to say that Andrey Sheptytsky was the greatest Ukrainian of the 20th century and one of the greatest churchmen of the world of the past 100 years. For 44 years, the first 44 years of the 20th century, he was head of a small church with between 3 and 4 million members in a distant, poor corner of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. There were only 3 dioceses in this church with 3 bishops. Because of who Sheptytsky was, and because of those who he formed, today this church has 49 bishops, 33 dioceses and eparchies, and its members and its communities are spread from Siberia to Egypt, from Western Canada to Argentina, across the entire globe, witnessing to Christ, struggling with some of the greatest challenges that history has provided. Now, when the Institute was founded in 1986, not too many people knew about Sheptytsky. Least of all in Ukraine, where by that time, already for 40 years, his name was systematically besmirched. Entire collections of publications were dedicated to negating his legacy. Books like, with titles like With a Cross and with a Knife. The Soviet propaganda machine sought to erase the work that he had done, the seeds that he had sown. When Father Andrey founded the Institute in association with the Catholic Theological Union in Chicago, a long pilgrimage began. One that has stopped today at the University of St. Michael's College. Today, the Canadian Parliament has recognized Sheptytsky as a particularly righteous person in history, with a unanimous vote of the House of Commons. But it was Father Andrey, and then Father Peter, and Father Andrey Uniferco, and all the staff, and the wives, and the children, and the friends, who first, in a systematic way, started to bring to us this outstanding person, who still is not known. He's of the qualities of Newman. He's somebody that was way ahead of his time. He was a billionaire that became a monk. He was from the highest Polish aristocracy, and he went to the second class or third class people in the Austrian Empire, because the German speakers were first class, the Poles were second class, and the Ukrainians were third class. There was an uproar in Polish society saying, how could this happen? The Pope intervened personally when he was some 20 years old to bless him and to make sure that his father doesn't keep him from becoming a monk. And that was only the beginning. At the age of 35, he becomes a bishop. And 3 generations before Vatican II, he began writing pastoral missives to his faithful in hillbilly dialect, in Hutsul dialect. In 1901, he would get on a horse, all 6'6" of him, and go from village to village. His impact was so strong that 1 year later, at the ripe age of 36, he became the head of the church and remained so for 44 years. Under 7 governments, the Austrians, the white Russian invaders, a brief period of Ukrainian independence, again the Austrians, the Polish interwar regime, the first Soviet occupation, the Nazis, and the second Soviet occupation, which liquidated his church. He was a humanist in the most profound Christian sense of the term, because all of his efforts, all of his work, all of his vision was rooted in prayer. From early years, he had mystical experiences, but he was a man of action. His prayer led to profound reflection, animated by an incredible culture. Most Ukrainians don't realize that the correspondence between him and his brother, who is already a beatified saint, Clement, is in French. That was the language of the children in the Sheptytsky household. His German, of course, was perfect, as was his Latin. He translated Plato and Basil from Greek. But his pastoral letters and his theology is not abstract. It's connected to life. Father Peter has shown us in his great study how profoundly he was rooted in Thomism. Father Andrey has shown us in his dissertation how he ranged widely in his interests. As a young man, he traveled to Russia to meet the aged, famous philosopher Vladimir Solovyov. And his whole life consisted of overlapping and mutually harmonic efforts to bring Ukrainians and Poles together, Ukrainians and Jews, Ukrainians and Russians, Catholics and Orthodox, Christians and Jews. He was often criticized. In Western Canada, he was greeted with rotten tomatoes, because to Canada he did come, into the US, into Argentina, into Brazil, into the Paris peace conferences after World War I, arguing for the dignity of his people, the biggest nation that was without nationhood. And the movement that the Institute is inviting us into is a beautiful dance. It's a dance with music. It's a dance with poetry. But it's a dance that will take us through cavernous roots of critical reflection on what it means to be human in the 21st century. What does it mean to be community? What does it mean to serve? What does it mean to give life? The leaders of the Institute battled uphill. I saw how those professors got their PhDs as they had small kids, sometimes not having money at the end of the fourth week of the month. This institute, the people in this institute, they care. They want something. They want something for Christ, for the church, and for this world. And so for 47 years, 40 years, it depends with whom, I've been walking and watching, inspired, enlightened. And this is your opportunity in Toronto today. And I ask you, don't waste it. Don't waste this opportunity. Because times are tough again. Today, only 1/3 of the world is free. Another third is partially free. And the rest, over 2 billion people, live under tyranny. Authoritarianism or outright totalitarianism. Billions of people are scarred deep in their souls by what totalitarian systems have done. And our people bear those scars. And it is the good news of the Lord, interpreted by Sheptytsky and his followers, that is closest to the wounds that we bear. I serve in Paris. My eparchy covers 5 countries. When I arrived, Your Eminence, the budget of my diocese for maintenance of the bishop, all staff, and all activity for 5 countries was 35,000 euros per year. It's a tiny outfit. It's very small. It's Paris. But if somebody gave me use of a building like Wendell Hall in the center of the city, I hope that the community that surrounds me would say, this is an incredible opportunity, and we're not going to waste it. You can be in that building. Today's garden party, today's prayer is an open invitation for you to come regularly, to learn, to understand, put a diagnosis on our community wounds, to receive a healing touch, and then to get a mission to go out and touch and heal and inspire others. I consider it a distinct privilege to be here today with you. It's a source of great joy. It is, like you said, Vice Chancellor, a homecoming. I believe if the community, if our eparchy, the Ukrainian organizations, the Catholic Archdiocese, if this college and university take this encounter seriously, incredible things will happen. because there's something true and simple here. Something very humble, because it doesn't have power, it doesn't have much money. Yet, I know you're going to give. I'm going to give. And we're going to give together. But we have the right to live as we prayed tonight. It doesn't have to be exceptional. That is what the kingdom is about. That is what gave rise to the institutions of the university. As we know them today, they were invented by the church. There's no more extensive, universally serving institution in the world than the Catholic Church. And there's no more vaunted institution than the university. Everybody likes universities. Everybody honors and respects them. Everybody wants their kids to go. Lots of people give money to them. The Catholic University, which combines the gifts and charisms of the church and the school, is a unique place. Today, this university has opened its doors to the Sheptytsky Institute. The good Metropolitan is walking in. Today, the university, St. Michael's College, is opening their doors to you, to your parishes, to your families, to your children, to your students. Today, these professors who have given so much for so many years are asking for your cooperation, to join in the dance, to go through that cavernous, critical, and creative process and pilgrimage of inquiry. I promise you, if you take seriously this opportunity that you have, the community will be changed. The eparchy of Toronto will be changed. This university will be enriched. New leaders will be formed. Leaders who will be up to the task of the followers of Sheptytsky. What did they do? They met the greatest challenge of the 20th century, totalitarianism. I ask students in Ukraine, who was Volodymyr Sheptytsky? Do you know almost no students know? Now, not everybody here has to know who Volodymyr Sheptytsky was. He happened to run Ukraine for 20 years in the 70s and 80s. He was the first secretary of the Communist Party of Ukraine. He imprisoned many people. He was the man that was running the Brezhnev doctrine in Ukraine. Today he's in the dustbin of history. And Sheptytsky is seen by the president, by the parliament, by politicians, by mothers and fathers, as somebody who can teach them how to live in their walk of life. Sheptytsky and his legacy met the greatest challenge of the 20th century. You will meet the greatest challenge of the 21st with your children, with your families, with your communities. if you walk this path, if you're willing to get into this beautiful dance. May God bless you all.